Hi, I'm Michael, and today I'm going to show you how to take this mature coconut and turn it into this fresh coconut milk. We'll go through the entire process, how to harvest the coconuts, how to remove the husk, crack open the shell, pry out the coconut flesh, and then blend it up in a Vitamix into delicious coconut milk. Stick with me. That's good. The first step in making coconut milk is finding some mature coconuts. Here in Costa Rica, we're lucky enough to have 2 coconut trees right in our backyard, so that's where I'll be harvesting from today. To get the coconuts down, I'm using a long bamboo pole. I actually harvested this pole myself from a bamboo clump about 20 feet away. If you don't have access to bamboo, you'll need to get a little creative with your tools. Mature coconuts pop off fairly easily, as these did. When selecting coconuts, it's important to look for the ones that are brown and dry on the outside. This means they're mature. You should also hear water sloshing around inside when you shake them. If you can't hear the water, the coconut might be too young or past its prime. This is a mature coconut, brown, dry, just harvested from the tree. This is a common breaker bar that you can find in any hardware store. Highly recommend to use this to get the husk off of the coconut. It is about twice as long as this, halfway buried underneath the ground. Highly recommend gloves so that you can have good control over your coconut and reduce the likelihood of injury. Okay, so what you're going to want to do here is along the edge of the coconut, slide that point of the breaker bar in and just bend the coconut downward. Being very careful, obviously, that you know exactly where that point is going to come through. And you're just going to slowly peel the husk off, rotating the coconut as you go. Yeah, if you can pull it off, great. It doesn't always come off easily though. Okay, going all the way around. All the way around. Sometimes you got to really work on it. And then you get that last one off. And here we go, we have our husked coconut. Okay, we'll do one more together. They're not always that easily. Push it right through the side. Putting my body weight on it. Being very careful that I know exactly where that point is going to come through the coconut so that it is not my hand. The breaker bar was a huge upgrade in my process. Don't waste your time with axes or machetes. Spend the money on a breaker bar. And so there we have it. It is husked, and then we will crack the shell and harvest the meat. Okay, so we have our mature coconut. We're going to take a machete, or any knife really works. We're going to be using the back of the knife so as not to waste the edge of the blade. And we're going to just lightly go around the edge of the coconut, right around the center, just lightly popping it. We're not concerned about harvesting the water. These mature coconuts, the water is usually fermented and not very good. And there we have it, mature coconut meat. Okay, so we have our split in half mature coconut, and we want to get the flesh. So first we want to break this large piece into smaller pieces. So we're gonna again take the butt of the machete in this case, or blade, whatever blade you're choosing, and we're gonna do that same popping technique, but we're gonna go in a spiral around the coconut. And we see how it broke into a spiral. That's exactly what we want. And then just kind of use your hands to force it apart. You can see we have our gloves on again. Highly recommend to put your gloves on. We're gonna do another one. Of all the parts of this process that you're likely to hurt yourself,
is going to be this part and the next part. So the gloves offer you more control over what you're doing. Don't be concerned about getting the coconut dirty because we're going to wash the coconut later. Recommended to put it on a hard surface when you're doing this so you can really pop it with the machete. And there we go, we have our spiral pieces. Okay, so now we'll take a butter knife. Okay, this one's already kind of slightly bent, which is beneficial, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it's fairly thin butter knife. And again, the gloves come in handy here to protect your hand. So what we're trying to do is wedge the knife right in between the coconut flesh and the harder shell. And this is why you want the gloves on so that you don't injure yourself by cutting into yourself with the butter knife. So you want to just kind of wedge the butter knife in and just kind of like twist it a little bit. You want to free up little chunks. Yeah, that's a good chunk. And then go back in for more. Wedging out a little bit at a time, and if you can kind of slide it in between, if you can see there, and try to slide it in and rotate it so that you pop out large pieces of coconut. Okay, we'll do this one. This is why we wanted the thin spiral strips. It makes this process much easier. Just try to get that butter knife in between and then kind of wiggle it. And there we go. We got this large piece. If there's hard pieces of shell still attached, you can just pop those off. And there we go. Do the other two pieces that we cut. I'm just gonna wedge this in here. Just being careful to be patient. This part of the process will be when you are most likely to injure yourself. Cutting into your hand with the butter knife. There we go. That is our coconut flesh. Now we will take this in, we'll clean it up a little bit, and prepare it to make some milk.
Okay, so we have our coconut flesh that has been harvested. We're just gonna clean it up a little bit. Have a bowl of water here and a loofah. I like to use a loofah when I'm cleaning it as opposed to a sponge so that I'm not consuming little pieces of plastic. And really we're just getting rid of the dirt here and just checking if there's any other pieces of coconut shell. As you can see, this is pretty clean here. This brown stuff is totally okay. I don't have any problem with it, especially if you're going to be making coconut milk like we will today. If you would like to remove this kind of remnant of the coconut bark from the shell, you can use a little grater right here. I don't bother with it usually, mostly because I find this to be the most dangerous part of the process. I can't tell you how many times I have shaved off my fingertips, but for completion of the video, I will just go ahead and show you what that looks like. It just shaves right off, especially if you have a higher quality grater than I do. But there we go. Comes right off, no problem. And there we go. Just one little rinse to get all that off. And there we have perfectly clean, mature, fresh coconut flesh. Okay, and we will make this into milk. Again, I don't find it necessary to remove this brown stuff, especially if it's going through a nut milk bag anyway. But if you'd like to, it's always an option. So now we will use this coconut to make some coconut milk. Here we have 3 cups of water in the Vitamix, and big pieces like this, you can just break them up into little small ones. Just makes it a little bit easier on the blender. Doesn't really matter with the Vitamix though. If you have a less powerful blender, recommended to break them up into small pieces. Okay, so we have our coconut in the water. I like to put a little bit of tapa dulce. This is basically the rawest form of sugar you can get. And then I like to put a little sprinkler of cinnamon. Okay, we will load that into the Vitamix and zip it up. Okay, it's ready.
I like to let it run for about a minute, 2 minutes, until it is slightly warm to the touch. And we will start by flipping our nut milk bag, proper orientation, and we will go ahead and pour this in. These nut milk bags are super cheap on Amazon, highly recommended, so that you don't have to buy coconut milk, nut milks with preservatives. Okay, there we have it. Just help squeeze it out a little bit. Okay. And here we are left with delicious coconut that can be added to smoothies, can be dehydrated, used in baking. I never throw this out. I usually add it into my smoothies. And we have our milk. There you have it. Fresh made coconut milk from coconut tree.